He was 68, still drove himself to the grocery store every Thursday, still tended his backyard roses every morning with the same care he had for years. He walked a little slower than before, sure, but his mind was sharp, his wit intact, and his independence something he was quietly proud of. We met during one of my regular community health visits. He came in mostly to keep the kids off his back, as he jokingly said. His vitals were stable, no major concerns, no medications beyond the usual, no sign of cancer, heart failure, diabetes. He wasn't depressed, he wasn't lonely. In fact, he still played cards with friends at the rec centre every weekend. But then, about 3 months before his passing, his energy began to slip. At first it was subtle. He skipped card night, said he was just feeling tired. Then he stopped gardening. Then the grocery trips became every other week. His friends called me, gently concerned. He didn't sound sad, just disconnected, quieter, dull somehow. I visited him again. His blood work was normal, lungs clear, heart steady, nothing showed up on the scans, and yet he was fading. Not in pain, not in distress, just dimming like a light gently losing power. I've seen this before, more times than I'd like to count, and every time I ask myself the same question. Why? Why do so many older men, still active, still sharp, begin to quietly lose their spark, almost as if something essential inside of them is slowly, silently being drained? I used to think it was just part of aging, that maybe this was the body's way of slowing down. But over time, I've come to believe that explanation is too simple. Because when I looked deeper, really listened, really asked the uncomfortable questions, I began to notice a quiet, common thread. It was something so private, so personal, most never brought it up unless I did. It wasn't illness. It wasn't loneliness. It wasn't even grief. It was something they had stopped doing or had been doing in ways that no longer nourished them. Something that once brought comfort, release, even connection, but now left them feeling flat, disconnected, and strangely ashamed. It was their relationship with their own body, their own touch, their own pleasure. I remember one man in his 70s whispering to me during a checkup, "I don't really do that anymore. Doesn't feel right at my age." His voice carried both embarrassment and a deep sadness, as if he had quietly closed a door on a part of himself that once made him feel alive. That conversation stayed with me, because what if, just what if, this part of life, this deeply human part of our experience, doesn't become less important as we age, but more? What if the loss of touch, connection, and embodied pleasure is not a sign of aging, but a cause of the quiet fading we see far too often? And what if certain habits, innocent ones, familiar ones, even ones we've carried for decades, are actually robbing us slowly and silently of the vitality we deserve to keep? I want to talk to you today gently and honestly about those habits. Because what I've discovered, and what research and other doctors are now confirming, is that some of the most common practices men carry into older age may be silently harming their well-being. They're not talked about at dinner, they're not on your prescription label, but they matter. So let's talk. Let's shine some warm light into this quiet corner of life and explore 7 common mistakes men over 60 make when it comes to self-pleasure. And more importantly, how to reclaim this part of life in a way that heals, nourishes, and restores your sense of self. Let's begin. Let me start by saying this: there is absolutely nothing wrong with masturbation. It is a natural human part of life, and for many men it has brought a sense of comfort, control, even intimacy over the years. But what I want to gently invite you to consider is this: your body at 65, 70 or 75 is not the same body you had at 30. And that's not a problem, it's simply a truth. The same way we adjust our diet, our sleep, our workouts as we age, we may also need to adjust how we relate to our own pleasure. You see, as we get older, several things begin to shift inside us, not just on the outside, but deep in our biology. Hormone levels change, particularly testosterone, which can influence libido, energy, and sensitivity. Nerve endings may respond differently. The skin becomes thinner, more delicate. Blood flow isn't quite as efficient, especially in the pelvic region, and what once felt intense or immediate may now feel muted, delayed, or sometimes absent. One of my patients, George, a retired engineer in his early 70s, said something to me during a visit I'll never forget. He said, "Doc, I still do it now and then, but it doesn't feel like it used to. I don't even know why I bother sometimes. It's not satisfying. It just feels empty afterward." That kind of quiet grief, it's more common than you might think. And it's not because something is wrong with George. It's not because he's broken. It's because the way he's doing it no longer matches the man he is now. For decades, many men learn a certain rhythm, fast, focused, sometimes rushed. It served a purpose then: release, relief, stress management, often done quickly in private, maybe even in secrecy. But now, your body may be asking for something different. At this stage in life, pleasure doesn't respond as well to mechanical repetition. What it craves instead is something slower, softer, more present, more connected. This is where the nervous system comes in, your body's inner communication network. As we age, it becomes more sensitive to emotional signals and less responsive to brute force or repetition. That means if the act feels disconnected, like just another task, it won't land the same way it used to. Your body won't feel fulfilled because your mind isn't truly there. That's why some men say they feel emotionally flat or even slightly down afterward. Because while the body may go through the motions, the heart wasn't invited to the experience. Here's something I often tell my patients, and maybe it'll land for you too. Masturbation at this age isn't about release. It's about reconnection. Reconnection with your body. Reconnection with sensation. Reconnection with something that feels alive, even sacred. The pleasure you're capable of now is not less. It's just different. It lives in awareness, not in performance. It shows up when you slow down, when you breathe with intention, when you allow your body to speak rather than trying to force it to feel something. So if you've been feeling like the experience isn't what it used to be, maybe it's not you that's broken, but the method that's outdated. I often suggest to my older male patients to treat self-touch the way they'd treat a partner, with attention, curiosity, and care. To let go of the idea that this has to look or feel like it used to give themselves permission to explore new rhythms, different pressures, and a more sensual pace. Because when you meet your body where it is now, not where it was decades ago, that's when the real connection returns. And that brings us to something I believe most men never consider, yet it can quietly shape their entire experience of pleasure and intimacy. Let's talk about it next. Over the years, I've sat across from many men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. And in those quiet moments of honesty, behind closed doors and softened voices, I've heard some of the same patterns over and over, not just about frustration or confusion, but about fatigue, discomfort, even sadness. And most of the time, they didn't know why. But I've come to learn that it's not aging alone that causes this. It's often the habits, well-meaning, long-standing habits that have quietly begun to work against the body instead of with it. So today I want to walk you through 7 of the most common mistakes I see men over 60 making when it comes to masturbation. Some may surprise you, some may feel familiar, but each one holds a deeper truth about how your body is asking to be treated right now. The first one may be the most persistent myth of all. Sust 1. Holding it in to save energy. You've likely heard it, the idea that holding back ejaculation, sometimes for weeks, even months, might increase strength, mental clarity, or even testosterone. The truth? While short periods of abstinence might cause small temporary hormonal shifts, extended retention can actually lead to pelvic congestion, mood swings, restlessness, and increased risk of prostate inflammation. Your body was built for balance, not restriction. Regular, healthy release helps regulate pressure, reduce inflammation, and support both prostate and emotional health. It's not indulgent, it's maintenance. That too, using the same exact technique every time. Many men have developed a default way of pleasuring themselves. Same hand, same motion, same pace. Over time, the body becomes conditioned to only respond to that specific type of stimulation. This can make it harder to enjoy partnered intimacy, or even to climax naturally. The nervous system needs novelty to stay engaged. Switching hands, varying speed or pressure, exploring new positions, even subtle changes can wake up nerve endings that have gone quiet. 3. Rushing the experience like it's a task to finish. This one is incredibly common. Years of sneaking quick moments of pleasure during youth in secrecy, out of habit, can turn into a lifelong rhythm. But now, when time and privacy are finally yours, rushing through the experience actually works against your nervous system. A hurried session bypasses arousal buildup and reduces dopamine release, which can leave you feeling flat, unfulfilled, or emotionally disconnected afterward. When you slow down, when you treat this as a gift instead of a chore, everything begins to change. You reconnect, you awaken. 4. Only focusing on one area of the body. If stimulation is only centered on the genitals, you're missing out on an entire symphony of sensation your body is still fully capable of. Areas like the inner thighs, chest, abdomen, neck, even your lower back are filled with nerve endings that respond deeply to touch. When you expand your focus, you activate the release of oxytocin, the connection hormone, which helps ease anxiety, deepen relaxation, and create a fuller sense of pleasure. This isn't about being experimental, it's about giving your body the variety and care it quietly craves. Skipping lubrication. This one seems simple, but it has a profound impact. As the skin becomes drier and thinner with age, friction from dry touch can cause micro tears, small, invisible injuries that lead to reduced sensitivity over time. Using a good quality skin-safe lubricant makes the entire experience more comfortable, more gentle, and far more pleasurable. It reduces strain on joints, lowers the risk of irritation, and allows for more natural, smoother movement. Think of it like reading glasses, just another tool that honors where your body is now. 6. Feeling guilt or shame. This one is heavy. Many older men were raised in times when masturbation was seen as wrong, dirty, or shameful. Even if the mind now knows it's natural, the emotional residue can still linger, leaving men to rush, hide, or feel unease afterward. But your body hears that message. That subtle shame increases cortisol, decreases testosterone, and blocks full enjoyment. The truth is, self-touch, when done with presence and intention, is not just about pleasure. It's about grounding, stress relief, even emotional healing. You deserve to feel peace, not secrecy, when you care for yourself. 7. Refusing to use tools made for aging bodies. Here's something most men don't realize. There are tools now designed specifically for men over 60. Ergonomic sleeves for reduced hand mobility, soft-touch silicone textures that mimic natural sensation, devices that support longer arousal without overexertion. But many men shy away from using them, feeling like it's giving up or not manly. Nothing could be further from the truth. Using the right tools doesn't mean you're less. It means you're wise. It means you're adapting. And sometimes these tools awaken sensations and ease you didn't even know were missing. So if any of this feels familiar, please know you're not alone. And more importantly, nothing about this is a life sentence. These are not flaws, they're invitations. Invitations to reconnect, to rediscover, and to reclaim a part of your life that still belongs to you, fully, joyfully, and without apology. Now that we've uncovered the most common habits that may be holding you back, let's look at what happens when you change just a few of them. There's one man's story I want to share with you next, and it changed everything I thought I knew about aging and intimacy. Robert was 72 when he first came to see me. quiet, polite, the kind of man who always wore a buttoned-up shirt, even to a routine checkup. He had kind eyes, but carried a heaviness in his shoulders, like someone who had been holding something in for a long time. When I asked him how he was feeling, not just physically, but emotionally, he paused. Then he said, almost in a whisper, "I think I've shut down. I'm not really living anymore, just passing time." He hadn't been in a relationship for over a decade. His kids were grown, his days predictable. He said he used to enjoy certain things, gardening, old jazz records, even moments of self-pleasure. But now, none of it makes sense anymore. He told me, with a faint smile, "I guess that part of me is done." But I didn't think it was. Something about the way he said it, so final yet uncertain, made me believe he still had more inside. He just didn't know how to reach it anymore. So I gently suggested something that surprised him. What if, instead of writing off pleasure as something from the past, he approached it as a new experience? Not for release, not for routine, but as an act of self-care, of curiosity. He hesitated. "At my age? Especially at your age," I said, "because you're still here, which means this body of yours, it still wants to feel connected, seen, loved." With the support of a therapist and some quiet encouragement from me, Robert began to explore again, but this time differently. He didn't go back to his old ways. Instead, he slowed down. He practiced deep breathing. He used a soft body-safe tool made for older hands and more sensitive skin. He lit a candle, turned on music, and gave himself time. And that's when it happened. He came into my office 2 weeks later with tears in his eyes, not from embarrassment, but from something far deeper. "I cried," he said, voice shaking. "I wasn't expecting it, but I did. I cried because, for the first time, I didn't feel ashamed. I didn't feel rushed. I felt like I was worthy of being touched with kindness, even by myself." That moment wasn't about sex. It wasn't about climax. It was about presence, about acceptance, about healing something he hadn't even realized was wounded. Robert's story reminds me that so often what we long for isn't just physical pleasure. It's the emotional permission to feel, to soften, to say to ourselves, "I still matter. My body still matters." And sometimes all it takes is a shift in approach to rediscover that truth. Because when you stop treating pleasure like a task and start treating it like a relationship with yourself, it opens a door. And behind that door, a version of you that maybe you've been missing. Now, if you're wondering how to begin that journey for yourself, don't worry. In the next part, I'll walk you through a simple, gentle 7-day practice to help you reconnect with ease, with care, and with the body you live in today. If you've made it this far, I want to offer you something gentle and practical, a way to begin reconnecting with your body in a way that's safe, meaningful, and deeply human. It's not a challenge. It's not a test. It's a quiet invitation, just 7 days, 7 small intentional steps you can take to remind your body and your mind that you're still here, you still matter, that your touch, your presence, your care is enough. Day 1 and 2, deep breathing and gentle massage of the chest and neck. Find a quiet space. Sit or lie down comfortably. Start by placing one hand on your chest, the other on your belly. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold it for a second. Then exhale gently through your mouth. Repeat this for several minutes. Afterward, use your hands to gently massage your chest, collarbone, and neck. Not with urgency, just with care. This area is rich in nerve endings and tension, and this kind of touch reminds your nervous system that it is safe, that it can soften. Day 3 and 4, switch hands, shift position, skip the goal. If you're used to using one hand or always lying in a certain position, try something new. Sit upright, switch hands. Even just adjusting the angle can awaken parts of your body and brain that haven't been engaged in a while. And most importantly, don't rush into anything. These 2 days are about breaking old patterns, about curiosity. Take your time. Explore the sensation of simply being with your body without expecting anything in return. Day 5, no destination, just presence. Set aside 20 minutes where you do nothing but breathe and lightly touch your arms, hands, legs, and feet. Not sexually, just gently, like you would care for someone you love. Notice how your skin feels under your fingertips. Notice where tension sits and where warmth spreads. You're not trying to get anywhere. You're simply showing up for yourself. And sometimes that's more powerful than any climax. Day 6, lubrication and exploration of new areas. Today, introduce lubrication, something gentle, unscented, safe for skin. Use it to slowly explore areas that are often ignored, the inner thighs, lower belly, hips, maybe even your lower back. You may be surprised to find that these places are still very much alive with sensation. By using lubrication, you reduce friction and allow your nervous system to relax and receive without resistance. Day 7, a full experience with care. Create a setting, dim the lights. Play soft music if you like. Set the intention not to perform, but to experience. Touch yourself the way you might wish to be touched, slowly, tenderly, with full attention. Let go of old habits. There is no rush, no goal. Just your breath, your hands, and the quiet miracle of being alive in this body today. And if emotions arise like they did for Robert, that's okay. Let them come, let them move through. Sometimes the body holds things for years, and with just a little kindness, it begins to release. This practice isn't about sex. It's not about performance. It's not about trying to be who you once were. It's about presence. It's about connection. You are not doing this because of desire. You're doing this because of life. Because connection isn't optional. It's vital. And when you offer yourself connection without judgment, without pressure, something beautiful begins to return. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought, because all of this, every breath, every step, every moment, leads to something much deeper than just the body. In the final part of our time together, let's talk about what it truly means to reclaim pleasure, confidence, and self-respect, not just for a moment, but for the years ahead. If there's one thing I've learned after so many years walking alongside people in their later seasons of life, it's this. The body may grow older, slower, softer, but the need to feel alive in it never truly leaves us. It's easy, isn't it, to let the days blur into each other, to forget what it's like to really feel, not just pain or stiffness or fatigue, but warmth, connection, that gentle spark in the chest when you remember, even for a moment, that you are still here, that this skin still holds stories, that this breath still carries meaning. Sometimes we grow so quiet we forget how to listen to ourselves. We stop touching not because we don't need it anymore, but because somewhere along the way we believed we no longer deserved it. But I hope this reminds you otherwise. Don't let silence or shame or old beliefs take away the most precious thing you still have, the chance to feel at home in your own body. You are not too old to feel pleasure. You are not too late to begin again. You are not too far gone to return to yourself. Whether today is your first time hearing this or your 100th, know this: the simple act of noticing your body, your breath, your need for closeness is already a beginning. Not everything needs to be fixed, not everything needs to be solved, but some things simply want to be felt. And if this conversation stirred something in you, if there's a part of you that whispered, yes, that's me, then let that part speak. Maybe by leaving a comment, maybe by quietly pressing that like button, or maybe, just maybe, by joining us here again, because there's so much more to explore, and we don't have to do it alone. You're always welcome here, whenever you're ready, and however you are. Take care of yourself, gently. You're still worth every moment of it.